And I think every person remembers exactly where they were.
The president's been shot.
50 years ago, the assassination of JFK. David Crabtree on assignment in Dallas, tonight at 5 on WRAL News.
50 years ago, Jackie Kennedy insisted on an eternal flame at her husband's grave. This is a live picture of it still burning today. She wanted to make sure the world would never forget President John F. Kennedy.
And as the nation marks the 50th anniversary of his death, it's hard to believe that forgetting was ever a concern. Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Gerald Owens.
And I'm Deborah Morgan. Few moments have that power to bring an entire nation together.
The death of President Kennedy was one of them, and today so was the chance to honor his memory. Whether you were alive to see it or you watched it in the decades since, the grainy images of the presidential motorcade driving down the streets of Dallas is an image almost everyone can relate to. As the cars pulled down Elm Street, no one knew those smiles would be some of the last images the world would ever see of President Kennedy alive. 50 years later, the city of Dallas held its first ever commemoration of the event in that very spot. WRAL's David Crabtree attended the service in Dealey Plaza, and that's where he joins us live right now. David?
Deborah, good afternoon to you again. We are overlooking Dealey Plaza. That's where several thousand people came together this afternoon to pay tribute to the fallen president. The president who died on this street right behind me 50 years ago today. It was also a chance for this city, a city always tied to this tragedy, to say, I'm sorry. In a cold, sometimes freezing rain, thousands prayed.
Almighty and ever faithful God.
And sang.
God shed his grace on thee.
Saluted and listened, all remembering the shock and sadness of what happened here 50 years ago.
While the past is never in the past, this was a lifetime ago.
Dallas Mayor Mike Rollins apologized for the city.
Today, because of the hard work of many people, Dallas is a different city. I believe the new frontier did not end that day on our Texas frontier.
Presidential historian David McCullough reminded the crowd of the heart of this fallen president as he read some of JFK's writings. Bells tolled, there was silence, and all of this struck home, particularly for Texans who, after a half century, are still hurting.
I mean, it's a horrible day for all of us, But, you know, when you would travel outside this state or even outside this country right after that, you know, and you'd say you're from Texas, they'd go, oh, Kennedy, bang, bang. So it hurt deep, you know.
You're looking live now at the last few words from the last speech that President Kennedy was going to give at the Dallas Trademark. This is the new memorial that is now on display here in Dallas. It was unveiled this afternoon as soon as that main event was over. Deborah, coming up tonight at 6 o'clock, we're going to talk more with people who were at this service today, particularly Texans, who said they had a great penance to pay for what had happened 50 years ago. And today, maybe today, was the true beginning of the process of closure for these folks. Some very poignant remarks coming up tonight at 6.
David, quickly before we let you go, I was watching the ceremony today and it was so solemn there, it almost seemed as though people hesitated to clap.
Well, it was an amazing collective sigh that was here today and collective somberness that was here. Of course, look at the day, Deb. It's 36 degrees here in Dallas. It's been sleeting and freezing rain on and off all day. The wind blowing about 20 or 25 miles an hour, and people understanding that had the weather been this way 50 years ago, I wouldn't be here right now because there'd be no need for me to come and talk with you because the bubble top that was bulletproof would have been on that limousine. All of that swirling around in the minds of these Texans who are here again to say officially, we are so very sorry and are still grieving for what happened.